Vice President Mike Pence was asked by NBC's Vaughn Hilliard yesterday whether he knew if the Trump administration's holdup of Ukrainian aid money was tied to President Trump's desired investigation into the Bidens. Take a look.
Well, were you ever aware, Mr. Vice President, an interest in the Bidens, an interest in investigating the Bidens was at least in part of the reason for aid to Ukraine being held up?
I never discussed the issue of the Bidens with President Zelensky, and
you ever aware of within the administration?
what I can tell you is that all of our discussions internally, I mean, the president and our team, in our context, in my office with Ukraine, were entirely focused on the broader issues. The lack of European support,
well, you were aware
corruption.
of the interest in the Bidens being investigated, and that being tied to aid to Ukraine being held up.
Well, that's your question. Let me be very clear. The issue of aid and our efforts with regard to Ukraine were, from my experience, in no way connected to the very legitimate concern the American people have about corruption that took place, about things that happened in the 2016 election in Ukraine, or about the issue that former Vice President Biden had his son on the board of a major energy company in Ukraine at a time that Vice President Biden was running the United States efforts in Ukraine. I think the American people have a right to know what was going on, and but all of our discussions, all of my discussions with the leadership in Ukraine was entirely focused on President Trump's priority.
That's having it so many different ways at once. It's really hard to unpack it all, but we will. First of all, yes, it was Vaughn Hilliard's question, and you did not answer it. You skirted it, you jumped around it, and then you actually admitted that it was the question, and then you tried to basically filibuster by taking as long as you can not answering the question. That was pathetic. Just answer the question. The problem for you is that the answer to the question doesn't work well, especially if you're testifying before Congress. Jonathan Lemire.
The vice president was able to keep the Russia probe largely at arm's length. He's not able to do so with his Ukraine questions. Of course, it was going to be his trip to the new Ukraine president's inauguration that was canceled by President Trump because of these negotiations about wanting to investigate Biden's request to investigate the Bidens. And we've seen a real attempt here in recent days by people, the vice president himself and people around him, to try to draw some sort of line between his office and what's happened in the Oval Office.
I didn't do anything, but you know, something might have happened, but I didn't do anything. But he knew about it.
And
he saw it, and he did not stop it.
That's right. And there's real concern here that he can't push back too hard, because there's still some nervousness around the vice president that he could be pushed off the ticket, that there's at least enough discussion there that if Trump sees that as needing a Hail Mary, you know, sometime next year, if his poll numbers continue to slide, he might try to push Pence out, despite how popular Pence is among evangelicals and other conservatives. So the vice president is really in a bind right here, leading to sort of dodging and diving answers like that.
And remember when President Trump said, I think it was last week, maybe the week before, he said, you ought to look into Mike Pence's phone calls, too. The president's trying to draw his vice president into this conversation. He was flailing again yesterday with that answer. There is no good answer, because the American people have seen the summary of the phone call between President Trump and Zelensky. They've seen the whistleblower report. The American people have seen the text messages. It's all there. So the smoke screens about the Bidens in Ukraine, the smoke screens about looking into what Ukraine did in 2016 with a CrowdStrike conspiracy theory, that stuff is to the side. Eyes on the prize.
It's not that hard. Up next, much more.